Hey, welcome to my channel, or welcome back, loyal viewers. This is part 2 of Carole Baskin Speaks Up About the Tiger King. And if you have not missed part 1, you've got to watch them in order, so I will link it below. Now, where we left off is that Dawn had disappeared August 18th, 1997, and Carole, that same day, was found around 3 a.m. She says it was more like 11 p.m. the night before, but around 3 a.m. she was seen walking. I struggled with this timeline because she said her husband told her he had to get up early, but I think it's possible he may have told her that early. At least that is what she is claiming. He left his home at around 6 a.m. to make a delivery, and that's the last time he was seen. So he might have been talking about the next day. It does leave one question in my mind. If Don had told Carole he needed to get up early the next morning and needed somebody to get a truck ready, it begs the question, where would he have been then? Because according to his secretary, Anne McQueen, he was planning to fly to Miami that day. It's also strange because this supports the idea that this man was of sound mind and body. He's making plans, he's planning to sell some stuff, he's got a shipment going to Costa Rica, and yet Carole describes him as late-stage dementia, practically drooling on himself. Don also allegedly had Anne McQueen transferring properties into his Costa Rican company. That's huge because it not only shows that he was definitely planning on leaving Carole, he was leaving Carole nothing. She would have lost everything that was important to her. Carole accuses Anne McQueen of embezzling up to $600,000 by transferring properties into her own name. I will link the court docket below that shows that the conservatorship had to be returned. This is all part of a very lengthy response that Carole has on her Big Cat's website, and I wonder why she never suspects that Don told Anne to do that. Carole does suspect that an associate of Don's named Wendell was behind the restraining order. If you watched Tiger King, you may remember Wendell Williams and how he expressed his belief that Carole, as he put it, set the stage for Don's disappearance by making him see doctors, by spreading the idea that he had Alzheimer's, dementia, and that when he disappeared, she could then say, of course he did, because of his dementia. You don't have to watch one episode of Columbo to know that that is possible, and though I don't know that it's true, I admit the thought crossed my mind. Carole's take on Wendell is that he's a longtime con man and that she's seen him turn Don's alleged Alzheimer's into opportunity by way of saying, hey Don, remember that $2,000 you owe me? And then Don took out a huge wad of cash that he always had and hands him $2,000. She says a few hours later, same day, Wendell says, hey Don, remember that $2,000 you owe me? Same thing. She claims she confronted him about it, and that's when the restraining order followed. She feels he put him up to it as a means of keeping her from removing his junk from the property. Even though in his own words Don states that she has threatened to kill him, she says he was not in fear for his life. And the court apparently didn't think there was anything to worry about either because they denied the restraining order. They felt it was just a spat between a married couple. We'd be here all day if I showed you a list of people who were denied restraining orders and wound up dead. A handyman friend of Don's said that the last thing Don said to him was, if I can pull this off, it will be the slickest thing I ever did. Some people claim that was him suggesting he was going to disappear. I think it's more likely he meant, if I can divorce and keep my assets, that will be a feat. Meet Chad Chronister, an easy-on-the-eyes sheriff serving Hillsborough faithfully since 1992. He has an extensive background in criminology and has recently come out as saying that 2 experts have confirmed the will for Don Lewis is a forgery. When compared to other documents, it certainly seems so. It's also virtually unheard of for a will to say, in the case of my disappearance, my spouse gets everything. But this will did contain that language. According to the sheriff, a girl came forward to them at some point and said that she had been forced to witness this fake will being forged.
The problem was the statute of limitations had already expired. The will had already been executed at that point.
What gonna do, right? A lot of people feel that the department in Hillsborough bungled this whole thing from the beginning by leaving the van for 2 days without even inspecting it at the place it was found, and then waiting another 2 days after they took it back to Easy Street to print it. They also feel that because Carole's brother is on the police force, that maybe somebody kind of put the kibosh on investigating as well as they could have. And I don't know if they gave her preferential treatment because of her brother, or if there was laziness, a combination of those things. But with a spouse that has a rich missing spouse who tried to file a restraining order and was going to leave and take everything, why wouldn't you question the authenticity of a will that says, "in the case of my disappearance"? Why didn't you question that at the time? And to give you an idea of how justice works in Hillsborough County, this is a boy who in 2017 stabbed a guy in the face and the chest and got 2 years of prison time with 3 years of probation. By contrast, Willie Simmons has been in prison 38 years over $9. I'm going to link that petition and information below. But here's a guy who gets a sentence of battery with assault and terrible bodily harm, but not an attempted murder, even though I'll let the victim tell you in his own words what happened.
The first cut was centimeters from my eye. The second cut punctured my lung. I was left bleeding in a parking lot. But guess what, George? I'm still you.
That poor kid is obviously emotionally scarred as well as physically. F you, George. And you might be asking, why is George relevant, Kerry? Well, because George is George Chronister, son of Hillsborough Sheriff Chad Chronister. And in case you think I'm being too hard on Georgie boy, it turns out that he wrote a song they played in court. It's a little ditty called Slash Yo Face that he wrote after the incident where he slashed someone's face. The lyrics describe the event in question and show his remorse. They are mostly, "No fist fight, slash your face with my knife." 2 years. George's rap name is Z Chronic, which ironically sounds like medicine you would take for Alzheimer's. There's also a strain of marijuana called Chronic. Don't worry, County Monet was coming anyway. So I don't know what the hell goes on in Hillsborough, but I'll let you decide for yourself if you think that there's been some shoddy work done here. Since this case was never officially closed, with the attention it's gotten from Tiger King, the police department has offered a tip line, which I will also link below. Apparently they're getting 15 to 20 tips a day, none that aren't just completely cuckoo. It's been such a long time, and there were so few leads and so little done in the early stages of this investigation that I think, barring some crazy deathbed confession from someone, we aren't likely to find Hoffa, and we aren't likely to find Don Lewis. There is a body language specialist I will link below so you can judge for yourself, but he pointed out that the way Carole purses her lips shows there is something she doesn't want to tell. It implies a secret, words she's trying to keep in. I submit there's limited stock you can put in this. While it may be true, I think it's also true that a person can give off defensive body language that looks very similar to lying. You could be not wanting to say something that people will use against you. What some people consider lying body language, I consider Catholic school guilt. I could see myself failing a polygraph when I'm being completely honest and innocent, but I concede this body language expert could be right. Carole also had a boyfriend, Jay Bacall. At least Bacall was the only pronunciation I could find on the internet. I apologize if that's wrong, but you can see the spelling. He filed a restraining order against her in 2002, 2 weeks after she tried to evict him. And in it, he says, on the phone and at home, told me she will kick my ass out of the house, whatever it takes. I honestly fear I am in danger of death or serious bodily injury because her prior husband is missing and presumed dead. One day she said to me when I asked her what happens if your husband shows up now, her response was, "Dead body cannot talk." Her former husband's daughter told me she could be dangerous and watch my back. Respondent carries 2 guns, always one in her truck, one in her residence. She said she was a suspect in her husband's disappearance. Recently, 3 to 4 days ago, she told me human bones were found near Lazy Days RV Center. She said she hopes it's not on her property or she'll be in deep shit. Now, I think it's important to note that dead bodies can't talk isn't necessarily an admission of guilt. Remember, she did say she thought he was dead. That doesn't mean she's saying she did it. Saying that she's in deep shit if there's human bones on her property could mean that she's the one that everybody suspects of murder. That's the last thing she needs to be having investigated. Again, not an admission of guilt. I will say it's at least creepy that she chose to use the language to scare this guy, which may have been what she was doing. On Carole's Big Cat Rescue website, in her lengthy explanation response to Netflix, she says that Netflix just tried to make it look like she said her husband took a plane, and that was not the case, and nobody ever alluded to the fact that he had taken a plane. But we hear her say, if he fell in the Gulf, we'd never know. We hear her say he would go out over the Gulf instead of mountains, and that could cause a crash. Did they take her out of context talking about a previous crash? Either way, I haven't heard her say any other explanation other than she thinks he flew a plane. For me, the most troubling part of what Carole has said comes at the 1 hour and 1 minute mark of her 2 hour and 37-minute video. She says, and I quote, "There isn't any reason or evidence to believe murder was more likely than a tragic accident, but it seems Tiger King wants the viewer to believe there is." With this assertion, Carole can no longer deny that she does not believe it was anything more than an accident. Whether she's talking about an airplane or not, clearly she does not believe there was foul play. She thinks that's not the obvious answer. And yet, she always manages very subtly to point out who could be guilty. Greedy children, a girlfriend, an ex, a con artist business partner, an assistant who could be embezzling, and mafia ties. Hell, her own father even hated his guts. But all of those people who could be suspects probably aren't, because she thinks it's just an accident. There are a million reasons to suspect foul play, and most of them are in Carole's bank account. Whether you believe Carole was guilty or not, it's certainly hard to believe her when she says she was never a suspect. Now, maybe somebody told her that, but she is the spouse. He had millions. He was going to leave her. He had a girlfriend. He was transferring property to Costa Rica that would have caused her to be destitute. And she thinks she wasn't a suspect. If you believe that, Carole, I've got some swampland for sale in Florida. Oh, that explains a lot. Well, if you've listened this far, I so appreciate you. And if you listened to both parts, I appreciate you double. Thank you very much. And let me know what you think down in the comments below. I really do enjoy what you have all had to say. And for those of you who, like my son, might be too young to get that last joke, the implication was that she already has swampland in Florida. Remember that old phrase, you know, if you believe that, I got a bridge for sale? Anyway, I liked it, so it's staying in there for my people who get me. And let me know if this was your cup of tea. I enjoyed making this video, and I look forward to more like it. If there are any updates on this case, certainly I will address it again. So until next time, Hausfrau out.